This podcast is brought to you by Flipper, a marketplace to buy and sell websites, stores, and digital real estate. Plot your own path. Become a boss by buying a small online business at Flipper. Simply visit flipper.com/techtalks for a free consultation and 50% off fees. That's FLIPPA, flipper.com/techtalks. If you do visit, let me know how you get on. But now, let's get the show started.
Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where every day we explore another area of technology in a language that everyone can understand, with real-world examples of the difference that it's making today, not just in the future. So today I've invited Daniel Theobald onto the podcast, and he is the CEO of Vecna Robotics. And his company raised $50 million for their Series B round and have been helping automate materials handling for global clients such as FedEx, to name but one. And Daniel is a passionate leader who is dedicated to the idea that technology can be used to improve life for everyone on the planet. And I think we could all use a bit of news like that right now. So on the podcast, we're going to be talking about how robotics, AI and automation can help keep the supply chain running, and also discuss the importance of robots and humans working together to increase workflow efficiency, and also what the robotics industry needs to do to push interoperability forward. But enough of me rambling. Let's get Daniel onto the podcast right now. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Hi, my name is Daniel Theobald. It's great to be here. I am a co-founder and president of Mass Robotics and founder and CEO of Vecna Robotics. Focus on building automation to help logistics organizations run more efficiently and more effectively than ever. Basically, what we do is we supercharge human productivity.
And there's so many reasons I'm excited to get you on today, which we'll explore a little bit later. But Vecna Robotics is a robotics company that believes the future belongs to those who empower humans, and humans and robots are better together. And it's refreshing to hear that story. There's too many rolling news channels and news articles about the bad side of tech. So I love how you're restoring a bit of positivity in the universe. But can you tell me a little bit more about how you're doing just that?
Well, yeah, it's interesting that since the dawn of human civilization, Homo sapiens have used technology to make life more convenient, safer, better, whatever. The interesting thing is that we tend to forget that this is all technology. Going all the way back, Homo sapiens, they invented sewing needles, which was a massive technological advantage because it allowed them to make clothing, which allowed them to survive better in colder climates. Just lots of things like that. And so this idea that technology is a threat to humans has been a theme throughout. It goes all the way back to the loom workers, where it used to be that when you're making cloth, you had to take this thread and feed it all the way through the loom every single iteration. And somebody came along and said, wow, man, this is taking so much time for us to do this. I could build something that automatically makes that shuttle go through the loom. And this caused such an outcry with the loom workers because they claimed there would be technological unemployment, and this was hundreds of years ago. And that's where the word sabotage actually came from, because the loom workers would use their wooden shoes, their sabots, to jam it in the machine and try and break it. But we have to look at both sides of the equation. Technology has allowed us to achieve levels of education, equality, security, safety, comfort that are simply not possible without them. It used to be that over 75% of our population had to spend their entire day trying to grow the food that we needed to eat to survive. So again, it's just important to have a balance here. We believe that the human element is critical to successful integration of technology, and that the technology is really here to serve the humans. We believe that humanity is the point, and I think people can often forget that. So everything we do at Vecna Robotics is designed with this idea of trying to help the human worker be more productive than ever, make their jobs safer, make their jobs better, and allow them to enjoy their work more. It's really interesting that as we were deploying robots at a particular customer, one of the, we were doing a chat with the employees there, the staff, and one of them said, "Oh, robots are coming in. They're going to take our jobs. When do we get our pink cards?" And one of the managers at the customer site very thoughtfully said, "As a matter of fact, the reason we're getting this technology is because we don't want to lose you. They have such a hard time holding on to staff in many of these jobs." He said, "We want to make your job better. We want to make your job more enjoyable. We want to make your job more fulfilling. We want to allow you to be more productive so that you won't feel the need to quit and, go try and do something else." And this is after, continually raising wages and that kind of thing. A lot of these jobs are just not super fun for humans. And so, interestingly, as soon as, he said, "Oh, okay, whatever." As soon as he started interacting with the robot, his attitude completely changed. He said, "Wow, this is really easy. This is really going to make my job better. Wow, do you think if I learn how to use this robot effectively, I can go and train other people?" So it immediately changed from a threat to his job to career enhancement. And that's the same pattern we see with everybody. People fear the unknown. When they think of this robot coming and they think of Hollywood, they fear it. They anticipate the worst. But really what happens is the exact opposite. Makes their job better, makes their lives better. And it's a win-win.
And ironically, of course, we're actually being set free from robotic tasks and concentrating on what's great about being human and leaving those robotic tasks to the machines, which is how it should work. But I'm curious, what is the story behind the company and what put you on this path?
I am very fortunate. I grew up at sort of the heart of Silicon Valley before it was widely known as Silicon Valley. Had a lot of opportunities that most people don't, and I really acknowledge and appreciate that. I went to I went to an elementary school that probably had one of the first computer labs in the world. We had Commodore PET computers and Apple I's. All the way through middle school, high school, had access to great computer and electronics education. I was fortunate enough to be chosen to represent the entire state of California during high school at the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory, and got to program the world's fastest computer at that time on some AI algorithms. That was really exciting, as you can imagine, for a teenager to be able to do that. And then went on to MIT, but with the explicit intent to build the kind of robots that would help humanity move forward. And so over the years, during MIT and afterwards, really invested heavily in this idea of solving the hardest problems in robotics. For me, as really a work of passion. Not so much business or money focused, but really how do we solve some of these fundamental challenging problems that are holding the robotics industry back, that are holding humanity back from really achieving its full potential. And so I founded a company called Vecna Technologies. Vecna Technologies was, you could think of it sort of as an incubator where we did a lot of robotics research. We built some really amazing technology that solves some of the hardest problems in robotics. If you think about a lot of the robotic systems out there right now, typically what happens is a company will build a specific piece of robotic hardware, and then they will write a bunch of software specifically for that piece of hardware to try and make it do something useful. We at Vecna Robotics sort of took a different approach. We decided that there was such a vast potential for robotics to improve humanity, that we didn't want to just focus on solving for one specific problem. We wanted to build a foundation that would allow us to more rapidly adopt automation across, everything. And so we built software that would allow us to do three things. One, and our software is now called Pivotal. So Pivotal allows us to turn any piece of equipment into a fully autonomous, safe, mobile robot. So it's basically a black box. You take that black box, you put it onto a piece of existing equipment. Think about like a forklift or a shuttle or a tugger or a tractor, you name it. Any piece of equipment, you take that black box, you put it on it, you connect some wires, you add a couple sensors, and now that thing can be a self-driving vehicle. And it's not going to be as smart as a human-driven vehicle, probably ever, but it can do a lot of what you were saying before, a lot of the boring, a lot of the rote, sometimes the dangerous tasks that humans just really aren't that good at. Let me give you one example. In warehouses, it takes a lot of human skill to do a lot of the jobs. But then sometimes there are jobs where they're just driving across a 2 million square foot facility, and this is back and forth all day long. It can take anywhere up to, 10 to 15 minutes to drive all the way across a facility that large. And humans don't really enjoy that work, quite frankly. They daydream, they're not paying attention, they get tired. Whereas when they're doing other tasks like picking a pallet specifically from a tough location or picking an order, that type of thing, their brains are much more engaged. So we use the robots to do those tasks that humans don't enjoy doing, and then allow them to spend much more of their time focusing on the tasks that really require that human element. And, so it's really a win-win for everybody. Their work is more enjoyable, and they're able to get more done.
And Vecna Robotics also recently raised $50 million in a Series B round. So can you tell me more about that, what it means, and also how you've been helping automate materials handling for global clients such as FedEx?
Yeah, so really exciting times for us. The arc of the company is we doing a lot of this research, really trying to solve these fundamental problems. And we felt like there were certain conditions that needed to be met before we were ready to go out and use somebody else's money. I have this saying that so many people are addicted to opium. Not opium the drug, but OPM, other people's money. And as soon as you start spending other people's money, your behavior tends to change. You don't treat it as your own. So we didn't want to use opium until we felt like we were ready to really provide the kind of return on investment that investors hope for and would expect. So we essentially took our time and de-risked the company. We solved all the hard problems, spent literally 2 decades building the technology, have over 100 patents, building an amazing team of engineers. I just can't tell you how grateful I am for my team and the hard work and brilliance that they've brought to this problem over the decades. And we decided that we were going to formally launch Vecna Robotics when the market was ready, meaning customers were out there actually saying they needed this stuff, buying robots in sufficient numbers to allow an industry to be successful, that the technology was ready in terms of being safe and efficient and cost effective, and that the labor markets were appropriate, right? That there was a return on investment for adopting these kind of robots. We felt like those conditions were largely met in 2018. And so in June of 2018, we formally spun out Vecna Robotics out of the parent company, Vecna Technologies. And very quickly became known as the unambiguous technology leader in this space. We focused really on what I would call autonomous bulk handling, moving pallets around large, heavy loads, moving around what many customers call non-conveyables. So because of e-commerce, people are buying things online that never went through those channels before: kayaks and beds and tires and exercise bikes, you name it, big bulky items. Well, the supply chain, the shipping systems were not designed to ship those type of items to individuals' homes. And so they became known as non-conveyables because they don't fit on the conveyor belts in places like FedEx and DHL and UPS, et cetera. So they used our robots to automate the task of taking those non-conveyables, sort of in a train, a tugger with a number of carts behind it. Because they can't go on the conveyors, they'd put them on these carts, and then somebody would drive that tugger to various loading docks that those things needed to be unloaded into trucks. But that was a task that people didn't really like to do. It took a lot of time. It was inefficient. So they were able to use our robots to automate that task. Very quickly, it became evident to them, they told us, that our technology was far advanced over everything else they had seen. And they started bringing in other partners. FedEx brought in a large retailer whose name I'm not allowed to mention. And it was interesting because the person from that large retailer stood there and just watched the robots at FedEx. And, just kind of stroking her chin, watching the robots, thinking. And then after about 5 minutes, she finally said, "Okay, I get it. Yours actually work. We'll take these," which was obviously wonderful for us to hear. But I think it illustrates the point that robotics is hard. And there's lots of companies out there that are working on it and making lots of progress. But the difference between having a robot in a laboratory or in a test facility that can do something a few times or even hundreds of times, it is orders of magnitude different from a robot that can operate safely and reliably in the real world 24/7. And, that's really what we have focused on over the years, is making sure that these things really work, that they're really practical, that they really help, that they're really safe, that they really provide a return on investment. And so, news kind of spread that our robots really work. And so we've been inundated with requests from lots of big players. The challenge, of course, for a small company then is scaling. So long way to get to your question about the venture capital raise. When you're trying to deliver hundreds of robots to very large customers, it takes a lot of money up front, right? You need to build those robots. You need to grow your team to support those robots. And that takes capital. So we were able to go out to the market and say, hey, look, this is real. We've proven product market fit. Customers want this. They're planning to roll it out across their enterprise. We need some investment to bridge the gap to help us get there. And we brought in a great set of investors. Our Series B round was led by Blackhorn. Blackhorn's thesis is around industrial resource usage efficiency, i.e., we have a tremendous amount of underutilized, wasted resources, particularly in the U.S. If you look at any warehouse, both the people and the equipment tend to be underutilized by anywhere from 30 to 50%. So there's a massive latent capability that we're not taking advantage of. So they really look for the opportunity to invest in technologies that help to unleash all of that productivity that we have capacity for, but are just not using effectively. Another one of our investors is Highland Capital. Highland Capital has been very active in the autonomous vehicle, self-driving car space, and felt like this was a great opportunity to take some of those technologies that haven't quite made it onto our highways and utilize them in the warehouse to really jumpstart that whole autonomous systems industry, perhaps. We sometimes jump to harder problems when there's some easier problems that we can solve along the way. So that's really what we've focused on. So we're using this money to grow the team. We've been actively hiring. We were fortunate to close the round, not long before COVID. I know a number of companies that were trying to raise money during COVID, and it was not the easiest thing to do. And we've been hiring and growing the team and working with our customers, obviously remotely, safely, but there's a real demand for this technology now more than ever.
I've had countless emails from listeners over the last few weeks talking about their fears and concerns around job security, while also seeing their interest rates on their savings drop considerably. And as a result, many are beginning to look at how they can invest in their future in an uncertain time. Could digital assets be the answer? Now, you might remember that I spoke to Blake Hutchinson, CEO at Flipper, on episode 1194 about how to buy digital assets and websites. In a nutshell, Flipper is a marketplace that you can buy and sell websites, stores, and digital real estate that are just ready to go. So if you do have dreams of running your own successful online business, or perhaps you're looking to exit your existing online business, my friends at Flipper can help you buy and sell. So if you're interested and want to find out more, please visit flipper.com/techtalks. That's FLIPPA.com/techtalks for a free consultation and also 50% off all fees. But now, back to the interview. And just to help everyone listening understand or bring to life what you're talking about there of how businesses can unlock and unleash greater productivity by leveraging this technology, I wonder if we could maybe look at a real world example. So can you tell me a little bit more about how, let's say, robotics, AI and automation can actually help keep a supply chain running? Do you have any examples around that?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So we have... I think there's some great examples of, let me start with some failed automation attempts. Elon Musk talked a lot about how his attempt to 100% lights out, fully automate his factory failed. He said, I made a mistake. I tried to over automate. Humans are vastly underrated. And the problem that people run into with these things is that they think that the technology can do everything, just the automation systems. And it really takes three things. You need the automation, but you need to orchestrate that automation, and you need to also orchestrate the human workers. And what I mean when I use the word orchestrate is you must make sure you've got the right resource in the right place at the right time. And this is where the challenges happen on a daily basis. It's interesting in these type of facilities, whether it's a manufacturing facility that's building your car or your iPhone or whatever, or a shipping facility that's shipping it to you, or a retail facility that's, getting it to the store or whatever. They all have, complex processes. And in those processes, there's what they call exceptions. Right? Exceptions is when something goes wrong. They call it an exception. But the funny thing is, it's really not the exception, it's the rule, because all day, every day, things are going wrong. And we've got these amazing things out there to deal with those problems, and they're called humans. Humans are great at exception handling because we're creative. We can think about what needs to be done to solve a problem. Robots, technology, not so much. And so this is that marrying up of humans and technology that's very effective. But that marriage of human and tech and the automation and the technology really can't happen effectively if you don't have the right resource in the right place at the right time. And let me give you an example of what I mean by that. A robot is trying to get a package from point A in the warehouse to point B, right? It's coming from an inbound loading dock to going to an outbound loading dock. As it's navigating through the facility, it comes upon something that it doesn't know how to deal with. A pallet has gotten knocked over. There's boxes everywhere. It can't navigate through it. This particular robot doesn't have arms. It's not able to go and pick it up, right? It's a driverless forklift. So what would you do? Most systems right now, that robot, that driverless forklift would just sit there and wait forever until somebody notices that there's a problem and tries to go deal with it. With good orchestration, that robot can say, hey, I've got a problem. I'm not making progress on my task. The system can understand what needs to happen, and it can immediately dispatch a human worker to go and help the robot. get past that obstacle, pick up the boxes, move away, help the robot get past that problem. And so that idea of good orchestration, right resource, right place, the right time, really makes a huge difference in your throughput, because your throughput's always being limited by whatever the main bottleneck is at the moment, right? There's something that is limiting your productivity. And humans are really great at what I would call local optimization, meaning, if I'm loading a trailer, I can make a lot of decisions about, it's much more efficient for me to pick up box A before box B because maybe box B is behind box A. And so I'm just going to pick it up in that order. So humans are great at that local optimization. But what we're not great at is knowing what's going on the other side of the warehouse and realizing that box B getting to that other loading dock is the most important thing that could happen in that facility right at this moment to allow everything to continue to flow smoothly. And so this is why in a case study that we did with one of our large customers, what we showed is that when we had the ability to not only direct the robots in real time based on information streaming into the system continually, we were able to also direct the human beings to the right place at the right time to maximize everyone's productivity. And we were able to achieve 2 times improvement in throughput without adding any additional resources. So you make sure you've got the right robot in the right place, make sure you have the right human at the right place, everybody's productive, the work is getting done. If there's something holding stuff up in another area of the warehouse, what would typically happen is nobody would know about it. And so they'd continue to happily work on loading or unloading the particular truck they're working on. But that's not the most important thing they should be doing right now. So the orchestration is able to say, hey, this is not the most important thing right now. We need everybody over here to help solve this problem. And that unlocks that productivity. So it's really this idea of continually monitoring. Our pivotal orchestration engine, it's kind of like a grandmaster chess player. It's looking at the warehouse facility. It knows the goals. It knows what the warehouse management system or the order system is trying to get done, right? It knows all those orders that need to get out. It knows where all of the robots and humans are and what they're working on. And it can sort of make the next best move. It actually does a lot of simulation to do that, just like a chess game. It'll try lots of different moves in simulation. It'll say, well, what if I did this? And what if I assigned this person to that? And it'll do this thousands and thousands of times until it finds what it thinks is, the best, the most optimal assignment of tasks. Another way to think about it is kind of like a Uber ride-sharing app, in a sense. You've got a bunch of work that needs to be done. In Uber, you've got people who want rides, and you've got a bunch of resources to get that work done. In Uber, it's the drivers, and it's trying to make optimal pairings. And the drivers have a choice as well, right? They don't have to take any job that's assigned to them. The pivotal system allows for that as well. So that's really the thing that's exciting to us, because so much focus on automation, but we at Vecna Robotics believe that automation was really so last decade. This is really the decade of orchestration. We went into a particular facility with the customer. They were super excited about buying robots. They wanted robots. And as we looked at their operations and did some modeling and did some simulation, it became very clear they didn't need robots, that humans were actually far better suited to these tasks, but they needed better orchestration. And what we were able to show them is that by making better task assignments, they were going to be able to get almost 2 times improvement in throughput. Just by, again, making sure you have the right resource in the right place at the right time. So that's what we're really excited about, is bringing that level of resource usage efficiency to our customers, allowing them to do more with less, allowing them to be more efficient, to get their products to customers faster, to do it at a lower cost, and to do it with happy employees.
Absolutely love that. And you did mention when you first came on the podcast that you're the co-founder of Mass Robotics too, which I believe is an independent non-profit organization serving the innovation hub for robotics and connected devices in the greater Boston area. But can you tell me more about your work there too?
Yeah, really excited about the work and the progress that Mass Robotics has been making. So how did Mass Robotics come about? One of the really unique things about Vecna from the beginning is that we really believed in this idea of giving back. We weren't interested in just building a company that made money. We wanted to do something that fundamentally made the world a better place. And that's been part of our DNA from the beginning, which is part of the reason I think we have such an amazing team of people, because they're all people that are dedicated to this idea of working hard to make the world better. So one of the things that Vecna does is we pay our employees to spend 10% of their work week doing community service. So out of a 40-hour work week, we will actually pay them to spend 4 hours doing community service out there in the world, giving back, Habitat for Humanity, working at the food bank, tutoring, mentoring. And people have a lot of flexibility over the type of community service they choose to do. A few years ago, it became clear to me that the robotics industry really needed an organization to help it organize, to help it standardize, to help new startups get the help and the resources they needed to be effective. Starting up a robotics company is rough. It's really tough because, you've got hardware, you've got software, very, very complex systems. You need a lot of equipment, machine shops, sensors, testing. It's just very expensive to do. And although I was able to, make ends meet and struggle through it and make it happen, it was not easy. So I decided that I was going to use my community service, and I pulled in some of my colleagues from Vecna. We used our community service hours to found an organization to help solve some of those problems. And it was great because we went out into the community and found some like-minded people, and a group of other people who wanted to help us co-found that organization. And now Mass Robotics is this amazing organization with over 40 robot startup companies in our co-working space in the Seaport area of Boston. It's an organization that has well over 400 member organizations, and it's not just the Boston area. It's really an international organization, and we're focusing on bringing investors and educators and inventors, roboticists together for meaningful conversations to help solve a lot of the problems. One of the big issues that I was seeing was that you had a lot of really brilliant people coming out of university who are really excited about robotics, but they oftentimes didn't really understand the real problems that industry needed to solve. And you'd see a lot of companies with so much potential fail because they were, solving the wrong problems. So one of the things that Mass Robotics really does well is bring the end users, the large companies who are going to be the major consumers of these robots, bring them to the table with the inventors, with the roboticists, to help them really understand what is going to be useful for them. And then they also bring the investors to the table and have the investors, help the investors understand the market and the market potential and the market challenges and all of that more effectively so that they can make wise investments as well. Because, making a poor investment decision doesn't help anybody. The investors, we want investors to be excited about this market segment, and by helping them to make good decisions about investments, they see more success, which means more investment comes in. So Mass Robotics also has a very important mission in the STEM or STEAM area, right? Science, technology, education, arts, and math. So we focus a lot on trying to help the next generation of roboticists or technologists really get excited about technology, really understand that technology can be used to make the world a better place, and provide them the support and the tools and the access to educational materials to, really embrace that. So I really love all the work that Mass Robotics is doing. There's a great team there that does that full time. It's something that I can contribute to on the side, but there's an absolutely amazing staff there that is just doing great work.
And there does seem to be a lot of uncertainty in the world at the moment, and also a techlash building where humans are understandably afraid of robots replacing their jobs. And you did comment on that earlier, but can you offer a more positive narrative and expand on the importance of robots and humans working together to increase efficiency? Because it seems that neither can do as well on their own, but working together, that's the sweet spot, isn't it?
That's really the sweet spot. Yeah, you really nailed it. You know, we've seen this cycle again and again, but I think because each generation is sort of starting from scratch, that we tend to forget these lessons. But, one example I'll give that I think is very relevant is it used to be that human beings used switchboard operators to communicate via telephone. If anyone's ever seen one of those old movies, you'd pick up your phone, a light would flash on a board, an operator would plug into your jack. He or she would talk to you and say, who do you want to call? You'd give them the information, and then they'd try and ring the other person, and then they'd they'd plug you into that together, right? It's just a big board with lots of plugs on it. And this is the way our communications network worked. Switchboard operator. And somebody came along and started to say, I wonder if I could do this electronically. And they built an automated switching circuit. And at the time, we saw the exact same thing. There were a number of people who feared job loss, right? All of these switchboard operator jobs are going to disappear. There's going to be unemployment. It's going to be horrible. And is that what happened? No, actually, it's not what happened. Nothing even close to that. What you saw instead was that the automated switchboard, which eventually became the internet, allowed for the creation of millions and millions and millions of new jobs that nobody even contemplated back then. It's allowed for more freedom around the world through information, access to information and education. It's allowed for more access to resources, microloans. It's allowed for more equality. It's moved humanity unambiguously forward in so many ways. Quality of life. We've got a long way to go in humanity. I'm not trying to say that we have anything close to utopia, obviously. But if you compare it to where we were and the quality of life that most people, or a large number of people on this planet are able to enjoy, it is far and above what it used to be. And this was thanks to technology. Technology is a tool. Like any tool, we can use it to accomplish great things, or some people. I believe a very small number of people can use technology to try and do bad things. But it's the exact same model here. We use technology to make things more efficient so that we have more time to be human. We don't need to spend our time plugging wires in and out of a switchboard. There's no value add there. That human being is not experiencing a better quality of life because they're switching wires in and out of, plugging plugs in and out of a switchboard. So really, that's the way we think about it. Efficiency is super important to be competitive. And there are a lot of companies out there that are realizing that in order to meet customer demands, in order to compete internationally, they need to figure out how to be more efficient, how to be more effective. And that's where technology comes into play. I think the fear comes from two things. One, humans are programmed to fear the unknown, right? From the very beginning, we just have that hardwired into us. The unknown is scary for us. That protected us as a species, or, from that sound in the bushes. Was that a saber-toothed tiger going to eat me? I don't know. I'm going to have a fear response until I verify that it's okay. Oh, no, it was my friend coming to visit me. And I think that's the same thing we see with the technology. You have this initial fear response because you don't understand it. And a lot of times that happens because we will project into the future a sort of what I would call maybe a zero-sum game, right? We see, this robot is going to make it so that we don't need as many workers to get this job done. And so there's not going to be as much work. And it never happens that way because the world is changing and new work and new opportunities and new exciting things are being made possible through the technology faster than jobs typically will even keep up. So, it's a complex topic, and obviously this is macroscopic, right? It's the macro scale. There's lots of individual stories of challenges, and you can't generalize down to individual experience. But on the net, I firmly believe that technology makes us better. Technology helps society do better. Technology helps the vast majority of workers to be better. To have better jobs, to have more enjoyable jobs. So I think it's really important that we change the narrative. There was this discussion about like taxing robots because robots were going to take jobs, and just misguided, in my opinion. First of all, there'd be no way to implement something like that because what is a robot? I mean, your washing machine, it's a robot, right? Yep. It used to be that human beings spent, several hours every day washing their clothing. Well, we have a robot that does that now. Is anyone going to give their washing machine back? No, I don't think so. So, it's just the new. We fear the unknown. We aren't projecting forward and seeing all of the benefits. We just sort of fear some anticipated short-term challenges. There are always going to be short-term challenges that unlock this future benefit for us. So I'm super excited about the future, and I think we're going to just continue to improve our ability to take care of people in our society that need to be taken care of. That's what prosperity allows. I wrote this article a while ago. I called it the prosperity chain. And the idea is that humans create technology that creates prosperity. Prosperity creates stable society. Stable society benefits the weakest and the most needy among us more than the strong or the powerful in many ways. And I think people oftentimes forget that. So technology innovation creates prosperity. Prosperity creates a stable society. Stable society allows us to take care of each other, and it creates an environment where we can invest more and create more technology, and the prosperity chain continues. That I think pretty well describes the arc of human history.
I love that. It's so refreshing to hear that positive and powerful message. And like you say, it's so important to change that narrative. But before I let you go, is there any teasers you can leave us with about the work that you're doing with Vecna Robotics or anything on the horizon you can share with us?
Well, we're really excited about our growth and what this investment has allowed us to do. As I was mentioning, one of the challenges we had a year ago is we were out there working with all of these big companies, and they said, "Wow, we love your technology, but we're really worried. Are you going to be able to build enough of these for us?" And so, this investment has allowed us to scale up to do that. But it has also allowed us to sort of go back to our roots, and we've recently established our Advanced Development Division. Our Advanced Development Division is sort of a rapid prototyping skunkworks innovation lab where we're constantly looking at all new, exciting, crazy things we can do with the technology. So we've got a lot of really cool things going on there. And I would suggest that people follow us on LinkedIn and other social media, and where we're constantly putting out cool new videos and talking about the great things we're doing. And also, if people have areas where they need help, I'm happy to mentor, give input, suggestions, and community service. We're always looking for ways that we can help and give back to people who really need it. So we're just really excited to have the opportunity to work in this really exciting industry and try and make life better for everybody on this planet.
Fantastic. And again, just before you go, you did mention the social channels there, but can you just remind everyone listening of your website details, just so people can find you nice and easily?
VecnaRobotics.com, VECNA robotics.com, and Mass Robotics. You should check that out as well. MassRobotics.com. Both great organizations doing a lot of really amazing, innovative things. We'd love you to come and get involved or to join us. We are continually hiring as well. Thank you so much for the opportunity to talk to you today.
Excellent. And a big thank you for coming on here as well, especially for showcasing how technology can be used to improve life for everyone on the planet. And it is such a refreshing message. And I think anyone that's interested in changing the narrative that we've got out there and working to create something like this, I would urge them to contact you directly. But more than anything, just a big thank you for taking the time to share your story with me today, Daniel.
My pleasure. Happy to do it anytime.
I think, Daniel, it's now officially my spirit animal, because the fact he's a passionate leader who's dedicated to the idea that technology can be used to improve life for everyone on the planet really resonates with me. And a message that I do try and deliver right here on this podcast every day, and try and restore the balance in the universe a little by proving that good news sells too. And it's not just about a tech-filled dystopia, because it's not technology in charge, it's us and how we use technology to create positive impact on the world. And as I always say at the end of every episode, technology works best when it brings people together. And on that fine note, I want you to share your thoughts with me, and you can email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com. My website is techblogwriter.co.uk if you'd like to work with me. But it's time for me to go now. I'm going to skedaddle out of here and prepare a guest for you tomorrow. So I will see you all back bright and early, same time tomorrow. So a big thank you for listening. And until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.